to the April 1st, 2026 regular meeting of the Town of Erie Planning Commission. The time is now 6:30, and I'm calling the meeting to order. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Booth. Here. Commissioner Burns.
Here.
Commissioner Dreckman. Here. Commissioner Sawish.
Live from Old Town.
Commissioner Bayham.
Here.
Vice Chair Brodus.
Here.
Chair Hemphill is absent and excused. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we have an agenda before us this evening. Does staff have any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Thank you. Who would like to make a motion on tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. You got those?
I did.
Thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda carries. This brings us to the approval of the March 18th, 2026 minutes for the Planning Commission. Any changes or requests to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Second. Okay. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries. Okay, this brings us to the public comments portion of the meeting. This part is only for public comments for things that are not already scheduled on the agenda. Is there anyone waiting room signed up or in the audience for public comment?
Let me see.
And again, this is for things not on the agenda.
The 3 items that I have are 4 items on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. So I don't have to go over that, so we'll go over general business. And the first item on general business, well, we have 2 items. The goal, as always, is to finish by 8:30, but we'll see how it goes. There's a lot of people here, which is greatly appreciated. So our first item is 2026-170, public hearing, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending approval of the Spring Hill preliminary plat with conditions. The time is now 6:33, and I'm calling the public hearing. I'm opening it. Turn to staff and then the applicant for their presentations.
Good evening. The first case we have for you this evening is the Spring Hill preliminary plat. And so this is a fairly large area, 300 acres, but sort of clustered development. So it's a total of 632 residential lots and 49 tracts for drainage, utilities, open space, all those sorts of things. Gross density comes out to just over 2 dwelling units per acre. And it is zoned currently under the Spring Hill PD. And of course, where we sit in the process is sort of in between that zoning stage. And if approved, we would move into a final plat application and a site plan for the townhome portions of this property. I'll walk through a bit of background, then get into some more details of the proposal, and then finally get into the approval criteria and decision. Location-wise, this property is essentially due north from here, and so it's on the south side of Highway 52, in between County Line Road, which is labeled as Weld County Road 1 on this map here, and County Road 3 on the east side there. And you can see on this map, the Morgan Hill existing Morgan Hill neighborhood is just to the south. The comprehensive plan designates this property as residential low density, with a dwelling unit or with a density range between 2 and 8 dwelling units per acre. And staff note that the application is consistent with that designation and also consistent with a few specific goals in the comp plan, including encouraging a variety of housing types, connecting the community through a network of parks, greenways, trails, and of course, increasing housing options. Zoning wise, as I mentioned, the zoning here is specific to Spring Hill PD. However, that zoning is fairly comparable to a low density residential type zoning. Let's go over some of the key facts here. So as I mentioned, this is 300 acres total, 632 lots. That breaks down into 414 single family detached, 148 duplex, and 70 townhome lots. The minimum lot sizes from the Spring Hill PD are just shy of 5,000 square feet for single family dwellings, just shy of 2,000 for duplex, and just shy of 1,500 for townhomes. And these lots are consistent with those lot standards from the PD. As I mentioned, the gross density here is just over 2 dwelling units per acre. There are a lot of tracks here, so those tracks are for a variety of purposes, including utilities. Some of them are for open space, some of them are alleyways, landscaping, drainage, those types of things. In total, there's about 44 acres of new public right-of-way that will be dedicated. This proposal does include a school site, a future dedication of school site to SVVSD, and that is just shy of 11 acres. In total, 35 acres of public open space would be dedicated. And then there's also a significant amount of open space that is anticipated to remain in private ownership by the Metro District out here, and that's 162 acres. Or that's the total open space, including private and public, sorry. In terms of access and roadways, so, excuse me, there of course will be this new internal network of public streets dedicated as public right-of-way. Let me actually flip to the next slide. Key connections here, you see there will be one connection to Highway 52 to the north, and the traffic study suggests that this will require some improvement. Initially, the thought was a traffic signal. I believe conversations with CDOT are ongoing. It could be a roundabout instead. I think the applicant can talk about that a little more. The circle here is a nearby regional intersection, or sort of off-site intersection, I guess, Highway 52 and Weld County Road 3, which is currently stop sign controlled. That is planned to be in alignment with CDOT plans, is planned to be a future roundabout. And so developer contributions to that improvement would be worked out and negotiated through the development agreement at the final plat stage. And then there are 2 planned connections to Weld County Road 3 on the east side. Those are planned to be stop sign controlled and full movement. And then there is one planned connection to the south down into Morgan Hill. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything on this previous slide. Okay. In terms of parks, trails, and open space, the applicant is exceeding the minimum required dedication for pocket parks. The neighborhood park, as you all probably are aware, there's already the Morgan Hill Neighborhood Park to the south here. So in this case, our Parks and Open Space team determined that a new dedication of another neighborhood park was not desirable or needed in this case, and instead fee in lieu would be the best way to proceed. So that would be a fee in lieu collected at final plat. In terms of community parks, that's always collected via impact fees. And then open space, as I mentioned, the public dedication will be just over 35 acres of public open space dedicated. And then, as I mentioned, there is a significant amount of private open space that would be preserved out here as well. This map is probably a little hard to see on your screens. The pink line here is extension of Spine Trail. And so that Spine Trail sort of follows the perimeter and then, I guess, perimeter, and also so there are a number of drainage irrigation ditches out here that will remain, and so this ditch also will be sort of parallel, or the trail will be parallel to the ditch in a lot of these cases. So that's sort of part of the curvature you see there. The dark blue, if you can see it, that refers to a concrete trail, and then there will be more minor trails that connect within and throughout the development to the sort of main community center, also through sidewalks in the future school site as well. And here in the lighter green shade, that color indicates public dedicated open space. The gray shading is what's private open space. Darker green is the pocket parks. There are oil and gas facilities out here. All of them have been plugged and abandoned. This application has been in the works for quite a while. So when it came in, it was originally 2021. And so legally, they're obligated to abide by the oil and gas standards that were in place at the time they first filed their application. However, again, this map is probably hard to see at this scale on the slide here, but the yellow boxes that are shaded here reflects actually our current standard that would be a 50 by 100 box. So that's just meant to show that the setback as applicable from 2021 would be a 25-foot setback from plugged and abandoned facilities. However, in most of these situations, a 50 by 100 setback would also work because a lot of these facilities are sort of at the perimeter of the developed area or in open space, or in some cases, roadways. And there is some ongoing mitigation work in the northeast corner of the property. And I believe that's related to the applicant can talk about that some as well, but they've been working with the state agency COGCC on cleanup because there was some soil contamination identified. And so that would need to be completed before approval of the final plat. But they did the arrangement of lots up in that northeast corner is planned in a way to allow essentially plenty of room for that mitigation work to happen. In terms of impacts on the schools, one important thing to note is that this building capacity that's listed, the bottom leftmost number in this table, does not reflect the added capacity that will come from the new high school that's currently under construction in Frederick. So that will benefit this project here is not that far from that new high school. So that will help take some of the, or that will help sort of alleviate some of the overcrowding that we've seen at Erie High School. And then, as I mentioned, this blue site here is going to be a dedicated school site for SVVSD. I believe it's an elementary school, or that's the plan for it, but they don't have imminent. We don't have any concept plans for that site at the moment, beyond sort of like very initial thinking, because I think SVVSD is not in a rush to build that school at the moment. Now I'll get into the approval criteria a bit. So as I mentioned, staff do find that this preliminary plat is consistent with the comp plan. As I mentioned, it matches up with the low density residential designation and hits some of our other more specific goals. It is also consistent with the Spring Hill PD zoning document. Staff do find also that this development keeps a lot of, in particular, wetlands. Of course, those would be harder to develop anyways, but those are set aside and will not be developed. So I think there are staff find that that helps mitigate some of the impacts to the environment. These criteria, there will be at the final plat stage through the construction documents. We review things like best management practices for water quality, erosion, and those come into play in enforcement in the construction. So we do anticipate that those will be a component of the construction documents when we get to that stage. In terms of pedestrian and vehicle access, staff do find that there is a pretty extensive trail network proposed through this, and thought has been given to how the pedestrians and bikes would connect sort of throughout the neighborhood and to key facilities such as the community center and the school site. And all oil and gas facilities have been plugged, and as I mentioned, there is this additional cleanup work happening at that one specific location, but that will be completed before approval of the final plat. Staff find that there are adequate services and facilities currently, or that will be improved through this project. So, of course, as I mentioned, this project went through pretty extensive review with CDOT, also the school district, and some of our other partner agencies. Phasing is not completed at this time, but that may come as a part of the final plat and development agreement. And because this project spanned a number of years, the applicant went back a few times, or took a few actions in specific, or in particular with the neighborhood meetings. So there were a couple of neighborhood meetings, both virtual and in person. Of course, back in 2021, we were still sort of a post-COVID time, but the applicant did voluntarily hold another neighborhood meeting earlier or last month in March, and has done some other more informal interactions with nearby property owners, and also did an on-site tour. Public notice requirements were met for this hearing this evening. And with that, in summary, staff do find that this application is consistent with the approval criteria and recommend that the Planning Commission make a recommendation of approval with our standard condition that they make all necessary technical corrections prior to the Town Council hearing. And that concludes my presentation, and the applicant also has a presentation for you this evening. You want to sit here? Yeah, if you want to.
All right, good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, members of the public. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is John Prestwich with PCS Group, 200 Calumet Street, Denver, Colorado. We're a land planning, landscape architectural firm, and I'm representing the Spring Hill project. We're excited to present the Spring Hill preliminary plat for your review. It has been a very long process, and I would like to thank Harry and members of town staff for getting us to this point. I always, before we dive into the details, I want to just briefly acknowledge the extensive collaboration that has gone into this project. As you can see, our team comprises a diverse group of highly experienced consultants, all dedicated to creating a thoughtful and responsible community for the town of Erie. We always want to recognize that it takes a significant team to forward a new community for the town of Erie. So the Spring Hill project has a long history. It started in 2014 when the property was annexed and zoned as low-density residential. And so what we're presenting tonight isn't a new idea. It's a vision that's been carefully crafted and refined over many years with the town of Erie staff. We've moved through several important milestones, from the initial sketch and preliminary plat and annexation submittals in 2014. We had an updated Spring Hill sketch plan in 2019, where we began specifically addressing project comments and engaging with OSTAB for early feedback. And then a significant step forward in February of 2022 with the approval and recording of the Spring Hill PD zoning. For over 5 years, our team has worked in significant collaboration with the town of Erie to refine and modify this preliminary plat application. We've tackled a lot of complex issues, including the plugging and abandoning of all on-site oil and gas wells, revising the site design to meet new oil and gas standards, developing solutions for regional drainage, working with adjacent neighbors, and incorporating an off-site roundabout design at the intersection of Highway 52 and County Road 3. We believe that this extensive history underscores our commitment to a high-quality, compliant, and integrated community. So Spring Hill is strategically located within the town of Erie and represents an important piece of the community's planned growth. As shown on the town of Erie's development project map, Spring Hill is recognized as a future community. Again, it was annexed in 2014 with an anticipated build-out of 632 homes, and this proposal fulfills that vision. The site itself, as Harry mentioned, is well located and well defined, with Highway 52 forming the northern edge, County Road 3 to the eastern boundary. It offers a adjacent to Morgan Hill and Westview, with Broomfield County lands also to the west, complementing the existing residential fabric. This location and long history makes Spring Hill a responsible next step in Erie's planned growth, bringing homes, connectivity, regional improvements, parks, and the extension of the town's spine trail system to the community. So Spring Hill is identified in the comprehensive plan as residential low with a density range of 2 to 8 dwelling units per acre, and our proposal aligns with this. The proposal is for approximately 2 units per acre. The PD zoning, as you saw, was approved in 2022, and this preliminary plat is designed to be fully compliant with those established zoning regulations. So I wanted to bring you back a little bit. This slide shows an overview of the sketch plan concept from 2019, showing the general layout and integration of residential areas with open space. So over the years and through the various refinements of the preliminary plat, the on-site design has largely remained consistent. One thing that I want to point out that is a significant improvement from the sketch plan to the proposed preliminary plat is the removal of the previously planned oil and gas operation area that is depicted in this previous sketch plan. So to be clear, with the preliminary plat proposal, that area has been removed. There will be no more oil and gas operations on this property with this preliminary plat. So this is just a more graphic version of the PD zoning, organizing the different residential areas as well as the dedicated open space and off-site commercial area of Spring Hill. So these next few slides just touch on some key analysis of the property that have informed our design decisions. This slide depicts the existing topography for the property with the proposed design underlaying it. In general, the property is sort of a gently rolling. It has a soft ridge. I should point out north is now to the right for all of these slides because it gets very small if north is to the top. And so the property has a sort of a soft ridge that runs north-south approximately at the midpoint of the property, and then the topography falls kind of both to the east and west from that ridge. There are 3 existing irrigation ditches that bisect the property, starting from the south, the Coal Creek Cottonwood extension, then the lower Boulder ditch, and then finally the Boulder Welch drainage ditch. One thing to note is that the Coal Creek Cottonwood ditch also runs through the adjacent Morgan Hill community. It's being piped through a portion of that community as well as it will be in this community. So approximately at the midpoint of the property on the south side, there are really fantastic mountain views. We've actually located a park in that location because of the views and the prominent location. As Harry mentioned, and I think everyone is aware, there were a significant number of oil and gas wells on the property. This slide shows the locations of the wells. Again, all the wells on the property have been plugged and abandoned. We do understand after talking with our adjacent neighbors that not all of the reclamation has been completed, and we will continue to work with the operators to make sure that work is fully completed. There's an existing wetland on the property that has been identified and preserved within our design, and integrating this natural feature into the community's open space network. At the request of the town, this area will be dedicated to the town. And then finally, this map highlights a crucial element of our community concept, the spine trail extensions and connections. So together with the town, we've envisioned a comprehensive trail system that takes advantage of the natural corridors and provides extensive connectivity throughout the development and to the broader Erie community. The next slides kind of depict our sort of community concept. So as I mentioned, this has been a really long process, and I want to briefly highlight the iterative process of the submittals, which I think really demonstrates our responsiveness and dedication to getting this project right. From the initial submittal in March of 2020 through multiple rounds, we've addressed every comment and worked closely with town staff and other agencies. As an example, the first submittal alone led to over a year of addressing comments related primarily to regional traffic, off-site traffic, and regional drainage considerations. Each subsequent submittal incorporated further refinements and solutions. But again, interestingly, the on-site design has not changed significantly throughout the design process. The ownership team has been working on getting all the oil and gas removed from the property, responding to off-site drainage requirements, finding and gaining approvals for an off-site drainage channel that benefits the larger area, and working with CDOT. In the sixth submittal in August of '24, we addressed some really minor comments, and then we prepared an alternative site design that moved roads and adjusted lots modestly. We worked with David Franks from the town's oil and gas team to bring this proposal to align with current town code, as well as incorporating design elements like the roundabout at Highway 52 and County Road 3 based on discussions with the town's engineering department. The seventh submittal in July of '25 triggered new transportation comments, which we addressed without the need for another formal submittal. So I want to acknowledge that and thank staff for their flexibility and ongoing coordination. In summary, while this has been a very long process, the primary delays were related to off-site design and agreements needed to solve regional issues, not a lack of effort or responsiveness. So we know that oil and gas is a critical topic. We've worked with the oil and gas operators to ensure that all existing wells have been fully plugged and abandoned, eliminating risk and liability for future residents in the town. In addition, we commit to no future wells on the property. The preliminary plat will protect the property with that commitment. We are fully compliant with the oil and gas setbacks established in the annexation agreement, and in fact, we've gone above and beyond, voluntarily updating the preliminary plat after the sixth submittal to enhance protections and responsiveness, recognizing the community concerns. The revisions make the proposal compliant with current town standards. So regional drainage has been another significant area of focus. On-site detention ponds will reduce 100-year peak flows by approximately 40%, significantly lowering peak runoff leaving the property. A proposed double 8-foot by 6-foot culvert at State Highway 52 will replace the current undersized infrastructure and is designed for the 100-year storm, reducing the likelihood of roadway overtopping. With this design, the historically widespread shallow flooding will now be directed into a defined engineered channel with a clear path to Boulder Creek. This map shows the regional drainage solution. The blue dashed line depicts the proposed drainage path coming from the east side of County Road 3 through the property into the wetland and then into a defined channel, and then through that new 8-foot wide by 6-foot tall culvert under Highway 52, and ultimately getting to Boulder Creek. So this slide provides a more detailed illustrative plan of the preliminary plat, showing the design principles that we've applied. We're proposing a diverse housing mix and lot sizes to meet market demand and attract a broad range of buyers. This is a thoughtful low-density design at approximately 2.1 dwelling units per acre, which preserves neighborhood character while supporting a viable community. A key highlight is our commitment to open space. Over half the site, 162 acres, is conserved as parks and open space. This delivers long-term environmental value, recreation, and community identity. Another element of this design is that 361 homes, or 57% of the homes in the community, directly front or back onto parks or open space, providing premium yards, views, and stronger property values for residents. So this slide highlights the parks and open space areas throughout the property. Again, we're providing 35 acres of dedicated open space, which is quite a bit above the 28-acre requirement. We worked collaboratively with the town's park and open space team to identify the area they desired, preserving the natural character of the existing wetland on the property. The plan includes significant neighborhood amenities with 4 acres of pocket parks, significantly more than the 0.8 acres required, creating a variety of park spaces, accessible gathering places woven into each one of the neighborhoods. Overall, Spring Hill offers a significant recreational resource with 123 acres of parks and non-dedicated open space, providing flexible opportunities for passive and active uses. This significant preservation of 162 acres, or 54% of the property, is about delivering a healthy, resilient, and highly marketable community that puts a premium on quality of life with significant park and trail opportunities. And so our commitment to an active, connected community can be seen in the trail system. We are proposing nearly 5.5 miles of total trails across the site. This includes a significant amount of town spine trail, about 1.9 miles. That'll be a community-defining amenity, providing recreation, connectivity, and property value. In addition, and in collaboration with our neighbors to the west, we are providing a bridge and trail connection so that our neighbors to the west have access to the overall trail network. We also have connections within the community with 3.6 miles of local trails weaving through the neighborhoods to promote walking, biking, and safer routes to parks and school sites. We've collaborated closely with the town's transportation team to deliver a safe, connected road infrastructure. This includes dedicated bike lanes that link neighborhoods, parks, and trails. This design enhances multimodal access, supporting healthier, more sustainable mobility, and represents a significant investment that boosts community appeal and supports the town's long-term goals. And finally, on traffic, another key collaborative solution that has been identified is the roundabout at Highway 52 and County Road 3. Instead of a traffic signal, and at the request of CDOT, our team coordinated with CDOT as well as neighboring developers to accommodate this request. So roundabouts are planned to improve safety and traffic flow by reducing conflict points, calming speeds, and minimizing long-term accident risk. They're cost-effective and durable, with lower long-term operations and maintenance compared to a signalized intersection. As part of the design process, you guys may have seen me here before, we build the community as a computer model to review the design. And as part of that, we've put together an animation to kind of show you, highlight certain areas of the community. So I'll just kind of let this play. It's about a minute and a half or so. So this is the entry road coming up towards our park site. We've started to change out a lot of the grass to native seed, trying to get into the xeric mode, even though we're just at preliminary plat. You can see a lot of the detached meandering walks, a little bit different look, open rail fencing along the backs. Even though we don't have a neighborhood park, the combined pocket park and poolside area is getting close to 5 acres in and of itself. Kind of fly through 2 of these other pocket parks and then follow the trail alignment a little bit, and we're done. So this is part of the spine trail heading to the south at this point. So to summarize, we think Spring Hill is a thoughtfully planned community that fully meets the requirements of the town of Erie. The overall project is a little over 300 acres, proposing a maximum of 632 homes, approximately 2 units per acre. The community concept, again, proposes approximately 162 acres of open space, about 54% of the property. We depict about 5.5 miles of trails, including 1.9 miles of spine trail. The proposal meets the requirements of the comprehensive plan, as well as zoning. The preliminary plat has undergone a rigorous review with staff and outside referral agencies. All issues have been resolved, and staff has recommended approval based on their analysis of the approval criteria. With that, we're happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much for the presentations. It's now 7:05 p.m. and we'll move to public testimony. Is there anyone in the waiting room signed up or in the audience?
I do have one person in the audience for this agenda item, Chris Neves.
Yeah, if you'd come up to the podium, please. And so you have, yeah, okay. So then, because you're having public comments, limited to 3 minutes per person. When you're called upon, you'll be required to state your name and place of residence for the record. If you're appearing on behalf of a person or organization, please provide the name and place of residence of that person or organization. And it's not an interactive question and answer forum, but rather a time for you to state your comments on a particular item or issue. You'll be given an audible warning. Only have 20 seconds, and also the colors on that little box will show up. At the 3-minute light, the light will turn red for in-person, and I'll ask you to finish your final sentence. If you're giving your comments virtually, we'll ask that you wrap up and mute your microphone. You may resume watching the meeting or disconnect at that time. So let's start with in-person.
Okay. My name is Chris Neves. I live at 626 State Highway 52. I'm here to speak to the obvious traffic situation that we have on Highway 52. There are 3 planned communities going in on 52 over the next probably 5 years. Spring Hill's about 600 houses. Summerfield is 400 or 500 houses. I'm not sure how that's going to grow bigger. And then the shores of Plum Creek over in Frederick, across from County Road 3, is 1,100 plus commercial. It's huge. 52 is already kind of a nightmare if you have to use that at all. Eastbound traffic in the evening, westbound obviously going into Boulder in the morning is pretty bad. Stop and go. I'm a little concerned with the fact of we want to put traffic circles at 3 and possibly at the other exit out of the development. And also, I believe Shores of Plum Creek is talking about a traffic circle at a new exit at 3.5. So all those traffic circles are going to reduce the traffic on 52 from 55 miles an hour to God knows what, 35. And we all know from our internet, the slower you have the internet, the fewer people you can support. So we're going to increase the number of people using 52, yet we're going to reduce the traffic flow. So I can foresee, if we don't do anything about this, that traffic will, at least going westbound in the morning, will be stalled on I-25, people getting off of I-25, trying to get on 52. So I think the development looks wonderful. I'm concerned, like I say, about the traffic. So what I'm asking for the commission to think about is, number one, a long-term, is get together, if you don't already, with Erie and Frederick, Weld County, and CDOT to talk about the long-term plan for 52. My understanding right now, CDOT has no plan on the books to widen 52, which is totally crazy. Number 2 is review traffic circles. I think that's going to be a mess. Number 3, and I think this is doable, is you have to improve the intersection at 3 and also this other exit you're going to make. I would ask that those improvements follow through and go across my property so that I get an acceleration lane and possibly a left-hand turn lane into my property.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other people?
Looks like that's it for in-person. I do have several people online, so if I do have anybody online that would wish to speak on this agenda item, please raise your hand. Okay, I do have one more that I'm going to bring in.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Julie DiMartino. I am a local real estate agent here in Erie. I live in Morgan Hill as well. My questions are for thought, if there's no school development being planned by SVVSD, where are these kids going to be going to school? And then, is there for sure going to be a pool as an amenity? And the traffic, I agree, is concerning to me as well. With a roundabout, it's extremely dangerous already as it is. I can't imagine how it's going to go with a roundabout there with the number of cars that are going through. It would be great to utilize 52 as a commuting corridor, which it currently is, to facilitate the quick movement of cars and not as a residential type street. The current roundabouts that we've put in Erie do not seem to work with the number of trucks that are driving through, having seen several trucks ride over them. I don't know how any trucks would be able to get down 52, which seems to be almost a highway. Also, can we please get somebody other than Lennar to build these houses? We do not need in Erie another Lennar community. They all look the same. It's extremely hard to resell any of these houses that are going for sale in the communities. It would be nice to have something unique and cool and fun to be able to sell, like Erie Village or Westerly. That would be amazing to have. But another Lennar type community is not going to benefit Erie. And if you haven't already, the market, I don't think will sustain all of these houses. You're talking almost 3,000 new houses in that one general area. It will decrease the cost of housing. It will impact resale. And do we really need all of these houses? Where are these kids going to go to school? Where are they going to play? There's no community center being planned. It's going to be so overcrowded. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. So again, to repeat that this is not an interactive question and answer. So we can't address questions that are asked. Is there anybody else in the waiting room?
There is not.
Okay. So the time is now 7:15, and so would the applicant and staff like to make any response to the commission about the public comments?
I can take a shot at sort of the Highway 52 ones. We're a little bit beholden to CDOT on that. We don't have a lot of authority to propose. Well, I mean, they tell us what to do. Is really how that works. We have to work with them. We have to collaborate with them. We have to go to our neighbors and seek additional land if they want a roundabout versus a signal. But if they say, a signal versus a roundabout, that's something that we have to work with them on. In terms of XL decel lanes at our entrances, those are something that will be planned as part of the final plat documents, and we've been working with Chris and his neighbors. So if that's something that we can work on with CDOT, again, it's not our call. It's really CDOT's call. I don't know if Harry, if you could answer the existing school one. We are definitely planning a pool, and we don't have necessarily a specific builder in mind. So.
Yeah, I think I'll jump back to the first question. I agree with what John said. So ultimately, as a state highway, CDOT does have jurisdiction over that roadway. So we of course work with them, and they work with us to find solutions on traffic improvements, but ultimately it is their decision. And I think the conversation has been productive with them. I think they were a referral agency on this project, and so in regards to the traffic signal versus the roundabout, I think there are trade-offs there. I think the hope with a roundabout is it does result in lower speeds, but it should be more constant traffic flow rather than a sort of stop and go associated with the signal. And I think the other main benefit that CDOT I think advocates for with the use of roundabouts is to decrease serious accidents, because you have fewer sort of conflicting T-bone type movements. In general, the accidents tend to be less serious. But I think, yeah, certainly we can continue to work with CDOT in future applications to determine the exact nature of the traffic improvements and whether there's some combination of traffic signal, traffic circle, decel lanes, those type of things. In terms of schools, so I believe Erie Elementary School is the closest and would serve this. I will say SVVSD, it's not that they're not going to put a school in at this location. It's just that right now they're building a brand new elementary school, or they're about to start building a new elementary school in Colliers Hill. And so that's their focus for the short term. And I think that will redraw some of the boundaries. So kids and those areas that go to Erie Highlands Elementary School and or Erie Elementary would go to the Colliers School, and so there would be some redistribution going on. And I don't know if the applicant has any more updated information, but yeah, I think since the school district often depends on bond measures and things for their construction, I think it's not that they're not going to build a school here. It's just that it's not in their next year or two couple year plans.
All right. Thank you very much for that. So we'll now move to commissioner questions. Let's start with 2 per commissioner and see how we go. I know I had more than 2 myself, so and we'll see how we're going to do. So, Chris, I'll let you want to start.
Of course. 2 or 3? 2 or 3 questions.
Start with 2, and then we'll figure out how it goes.
Okay. Thank you, staff. Thank you to the applicant for the presentations. There was a note that was made by staff that I wanted to see if we can receive clarification on. There was a comment about saying that there was soil contamination that requires remediation. Now, can you clarify what this was? Is this one of the multiple leaks that was identified, either the staining and potential groundwater contamination on the northern portion that we have not received word back from Kerr-McGee on in terms of did they remediate fully the groundwater? Is this the tank battery facility on the south side? Like, where exactly is this contamination? Because there's multiple occurrences of contamination. Is this a new contamination that was identified?
I may also let the applicant answer that. So it's in, hopefully you can see my mouse here.
You got it.
This northeast portion, I know that mouse, yeah, it's probably hard to see. So it's associated with some underground pipes that were serving one of the oil and gas wells. The specific company, I want to say KPK well, or was it Kerr-McGee?
It's Kerr-McGee.
And so that was soil contamination associated with that pipe. And so, yeah, I believe there was some question about the cleanup, because that cleanup was supposed to happen with the plug and abandoning process of the well. And so I believe you were referring to it in the first description you gave. So there was some question about the completeness of that cleanup effort. And so the applicant has been working with the state agency to ensure that the remainder of that cleanup and that soil cleanup takes place.
I assume that's the remediation that you were referring to.
That's correct. And our neighbors have let us know that not soil cleanup, but just general, some of the wells that have been plugged and abandoned, they need to be regraded. Like they just didn't do a very good job on some of them. So there's soil cleanup, and then there's just general cleanup as well that we're going to work with the operators on.
Okay. Well, I know there's in the environmental study, but this is 2014. Is there also going to be the groundwater monitoring as well? That's going to be included with that?
Yeah, whatever the ECMC requires is what the operators are going to have to do.
Okay. Okay, now, litany of questions over here, but I'm going to just stand there while I gas for a second. I understand that based on the annexation agreement, based on when the initial plans came through, having seen these way back when, you are beholden on the municipal code at that time or what's within your annexation agreement. So I see that there is the 50 by 150, that is the current standard within our municipal code. There is currently identified a pocket park. This is on the very west side. It does appear as though there is a plug and abandoned well or a couple of them that are right next to there.
They are next to it. They're in a separate tract as required.
Okay, so they're in a separate track. The park does not actually.
Doesn't touch them.
It
doesn't touch the 50 by 100 boxes.
Okay. Okay, that is all.
Thank you.
My turn. Thank you. I guess I'll stick with the CDOT. I know that there's not a lot that you have power to control. Do we know, just in general, with our work with CDOT, what Highway 52 plans are in the future and what those timelines look like, especially with widening that road?
Widening, I don't know if the applicant has more information on that. So the current plan for CDOT is for a roundabout and not a traffic signal at that Highway 52 and County Road 3. I believe there will be, as the member of the public mentioned, there are a number of outside Erie projects that would be sort of contributing impacts to this intersection. And so I believe part of the conversation in the final plat and the development agreement might be figuring out the sharing of costs. In terms of timing, I would think that ultimately would be up to CDOT. I think our work in the final plat and development agreement will also talk about timing of public improvements, but I think ultimately the timing would be up to CDOT, and I don't have a grasp of that timing to share at the moment. But I think it would be sort of concurrent with some of this development coming online or preceding this development coming online.
Have you heard of rumors of widening?
I have not personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my other question regarding that is when CDOT gets involved in a new development. So I think somebody had mentioned, the 3 different neighborhoods out there, 4 if you want to include Morgan Hill. When they look at things, do they take into consideration all of those neighborhoods, or are they just looking at the impact from this one development?
That's a good question. So CDOT will look at impacts from neighboring communities too, and they do have what's called a access control plan. That is sort of their long-term goal for sometimes consolidating access points if there are kind of old driveways or like private accesses onto Highway 52 being sort of a rural condition in for a lot of its frontage. So that plan calls for consolidating accesses at some points, and then also proposes certain intersections that are going to be full movement versus like right in, right out would be allowed here, but no new full movement access points. So they do consider that in their sort of long range planning. And so these two, or this one new entrance on from Highway 52 is contemplated as part of that access control plan, and then of course the improvements at the Highway 52 and County Road 3 intersection are contemplated in there as well.
Okay.
Mr. Burns.
All right. We're gonna, I guess, we'll continue to beat on this traffic control thing here. So I'll note that there was a traffic study included in the application, which I appreciate to have that information in there. And they noted that they don't expect anything, I'm assuming before 2030 certainly, and their projections go out to 2050. They note that the current level of service, specifically at County Road 3 and 52, is not good because it's not signalized. It's a permissive turn, even though without the traffic on the other side. Knowing that CDOT will, if and when they do widen, as Commissioner Booth mentioned, it will take a while for CDOT probably to come along to do the studies, design, build that kind of widening, and including this roundabout. Is there any consideration as part of this development to widen the capacity of the intersection at CR3 specifically, coming into the 52, because you're going to have a lot more traffic potentially waiting to turn left or
Yeah,
right?
for sure. So I know that we will need to do accel, decel, turn lanes, all of that kind of stuff at a minimum. But I think CDOT is going to require that either a signal, well, they don't want a traffic signal, but they're going to require that roundabout much earlier. Like our development team is anticipating they're going to be contributing to that relatively early in the process.
Okay. So I'll note that, especially with a higher speed roundabout as opposed to the ones maybe downtown.
Fair.
It takes a pretty good footprint.
Yeah, that held us up for a long time.
It's going to chew up a lot more space, I think, that's in the current intersection. And a lot of that capacity that's currently there, which is not a lot, is going to go away. So definitely would ask that you guys keep that in mind. The interim condition of the intersection and not the full build out for capacity, because not only you have all the houses here in the current traffic on County Road 3, it looks like whenever this commercial comes along, its only access is going to be through that onto CR3. You won't have any ability to get onto 52 directly. And if the other access point on the northwestern corner opposite the reclamation access road is problematic, I can see people coming down to this intersection as well to get onto 52. So you might have a pretty good choke point down here. That's more of an observation perhaps than a question. The other thing I was kind of wondering, non-traffic related, I noted that you guys are maintaining the irrigation ditches that are in this location, this area. With the proposed double box culvert that's going to be going in on the northwestern corner, is that going to affect these irrigation ditches that are in the northeast?
No, we can't direct any drainage towards irrigation ditches, so we actually have to go underneath them.
Yeah.
And so those waters don't commingle, if you will.
Okay, because it looked like just the general line. I didn't get the drainage plans of the box is really coming up to the wetlands. I didn't know if it kind of is going to affect the flow from the irrigation ditch.
No, and we've actually had to work and get agreements with the ditches to do those crossings. That's another thing that took quite a while.
Yeah, that's a touchy subject for sure. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bain?
I'll take up the stand on the CDOT issues also. On the northwest corner for that entrance coming into the duplex product, is that going to be right in, right out, or is that proposed as a traffic circle also?
Well, the traffic circle is a new conversation.
Okay.
It aligns with the town's access road to the north, and so it's anticipated as a full movement intersection, ultimately signalized.
Okay. All right, so that'll move that stop point further to the west, along with the roundabout, easing some of the traffic as it comes across from
Yeah.
I-25. Okay. That's the only
And
question.
I think that's my fault. I think I confused I described that as a roundabout, and I should have said traffic signal there. I was
Okay.
thinking about the traffic signal at Highway 52 and County Road 3. So that's probably my fault that confused
Yeah,
the subject.
looking at that secondary entrance, it seems to be fewer units, so it's gonna see far less use as compared to what's on the east side near the school entrance, so. And then connectivity to Morgan Hill, looks like there's one or two.
Just one. The Morgan Hill had a right-of-way stubbed out to this property, and we matched it.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
My question is regarding the open space. So I know there's 162 acres of private open space and then 35 of dedicated open space. Is it actually usable for Erie residents, or is it more because like wetlands and the easements surrounding those ditches aren't actually like, I mean, the view shed aspect is great, but it's not usable really beyond that for recreation for residents. Is any of that going to be?
So the 162 is like the total. 35
Right.
is going to the
In that
town,
zone.
and then I think it's 123, something like that. You are correct. Like between the ditches, that's more view preservation,
Right.
natural character, but it does include all the spine trail areas, all the pocket parks,
Okay.
and the parks. All the pocket parks. I keep thinking we have a neighborhood park because that one park is large, but it's not a neighborhood park. They're just all the pocket parks and all the trail corridors. So
Okay.
in some ways, it's quite usable. In other ways,
Right.
it's more view shed.
Okay, that makes sense. And then is the Boulderville ditch and Lower Boulder, are they going to concrete in their ditches in that, or do you know, in that area? Is that their plan?
We have not heard anything
Heard
about
about
them
that.
lining those ditches.
Yeah, it wouldn't look as pretty, I guess, than seeing it. But okay, that was my only questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll give my first two, and then we'll go around again. I had a lot on traffic, but we've covered a lot of that already, so I won't do that. OSTAB, the Open Space and Trails Advisory Board, when I talked with them, they hadn't seen an updated plan since the 21 plan, which I found a little surprising. So that's almost more of a comment that we should get it to them I did actually send it to them, or at least send them a link to it. I mean, it's great the amount of open space. I do have a question about the crusher fine trails that you're going to put in, only because the town has stopped using crusher fine because of maintenance.
Sure.
So just so you're aware of, maintenance is not insignificant for crusher fine.
For sure. Yeah, that was at the request of the adjacent neighbors.
Okay.
That was their preference, and we agreed to it.
Okay. And I greatly appreciate before I was on this board, I was chair of open space. So I still have a love for that. The drain, before I joined the commission, I didn't realize how much work goes into both traffic and the irrigation and the drainage plants. And so I really appreciate what you've done there. For the community, I don't know if you've noticed that there is a very, very detailed traffic plan which talks about the delays at each intersection and things. So if you haven't looked at that, I think it's worth doing. One little nit is the largest lot. In some places it's 65 by 120, in some places it's 65 by 115
Yeah.
for the same lot. So
Well, it's the same width. That when we can get a little extra depth, we try to, but we may have gotten some areas where we couldn't quite get that depth.
okay, I guess what I'm saying is the legends are different for the same lot in different pictures. So we can go over that afterwards.
I'll find that.
Yeah, so it's not that critical. Well, those were my two. I've got others, but Commissioner Selwich, do you have other questions?
Yeah, I'm going to hop back on the traffic bandwagon. Okay, this is probably going to be for staff, but applicant can chime in as well. With all of our plans at that wastewater treatment facility and how this intersection is going to intersect with our driveway in there, have we received comments from our Public Works Department in terms of their thoughts on the matter? because obviously we don't want to impede their ability to access that facility as well as all of the vendors, contractors, and whatnot that we may have in the future.
That's a good question. Yeah, the plans have gone through engineering and public works and the utilities team. And I think the general sense is that this improvement would be of benefit, I guess, to have an actual traffic signal there. It doesn't, at least not that I'm aware of, interfere with it, or that none that they've mentioned interfere with any of their plans for the site. And I think they're actually planning on having this traffic signal in the future. So I think it benefits access to that site as well, or our site as well.
We were specifically requested to align with it by Public Works. And so, yeah.
Okay, so that's why it lines up well then, because you were requested. Okay, perfect. So going back to the whole CDOT conversation, there were CDOT has the access control point map, basically from where it starts at 119 all the way out east, out to 85, I think it is. Have you petitioned, or has the town petitioned to have the access control points addressed in that? Because I would assume that all of their conversations, how they want to have the traffic movements, is all going to be based on that. They have significant amount of these that they want to remove or restrict. How do these new access point requirements come into play? Or has this been layered into that access control plan already?
These access points have been or are a part of that access control plan. So that access control plan doesn't call for the removal of the any of the entrances associated with this development. So they're mostly, well, I don't know if I can recall off the top of my head, but in either case, yeah. So this connection to Highway 52 with this new Spring Hill Road coming up to the north is part of that access control plan, or is anticipated in there. And then the improvements to the Highway 52 and County Road 3 are also in there. So neither of those are, I guess, mentioned as accesses to be removed. There is a process, sort of to your earlier or first part of your question, there is a process to petition for additional accesses or different types of access. So if it restricts something to a right in, right out, you can petition it to a full movement. But we didn't have to do that with any of or either of these two intersections here.
Okay, and when we looked at the level of service and the impact study, it took into account the movement across the street in terms of the town's own facility, because that could be something that impacts that. Because say if it's not a full movement that can occur there, because CDOT comes back and says, hey, it's right in, right out only, does that potentially then impact the opposite side as well? Because we don't want to have, big machinery and vehicles having any potential, issues.
Yeah, I'll take that one. You were correct. That would be a problem. But our traffic consultant has been meeting rigorously with CDOT and ensuring that these locations are on their access control plans. CDOT reviews the traffic study that says this is, I keep pointing, you can't see. The western access location will likely be a signal once it meets warrants. So warrants are kind of technical, but you have to go, once it hits a certain amount of traffic and things of that nature, then it's eligible for a signal, and CDOT's well aware of that.
And I saw in the study, I believe it said nothing was warranted as of right now because of the 70% level. I believe it was 2 of 4 hours at one intersection, and then 1 of 4.
Right.
And then there was the other one that didn't meet the threshold, and so nothing is warranted right now as it stands. There would have to be additional studies later on to prove that they are warranted if and when the time comes.
Correct. And as this develops and as the town's facility develops, that will actually help getting a signal there sooner rather than later.
That's all for enough. Thank you.
Yes?
Follow up to the warranted question. When
Get out of my depth quick.
when CDOT determines, how does that work? Like, does the town have to initiate them to come back out and see if it's now warranted, or is that something that they do on their own?
That would be so. That is a good question. So we have transportation engineers on staff here in the Public Works Department, and so with a subsequent application, so if this were this preliminary plat were approved, it would have to come back for a final plat. Or sometimes they break things into separate filings, and so they come back multiple times. But in any case, when we get a final plat application or any of the subsequent applications, they would at very least have to submit a traffic conformance letter that is sort of a short traffic study version, just saying it doesn't change anything that was found in this more detailed report. But typically, I think our transportation engineers require updated traffic counts every 2 years, I believe. So, so that it may future applications may or probably would require updated traffic counts too, and so that would help sort of update the data. On some level, we do sort of still rely on projections for when traffic signals will be warranted, and the way I understand it is there's actually some liability involved if you build a traffic signal before it's technically warranted or before it's been shown to be warranted. If an accident happens, there's some question of liability, I think. So that's probably more in the weeds, but yeah, I guess the short answer I suppose is that we town staff would continue to verify that in the data in forthcoming applications.
Okay. I'm going to get off of traffic now.
Anything else?
I'm going to go to schools.
Okay.
The Frederick High School, is that complete yet?
It's not. It's currently under construction. I believe it's planned to open in the fall
Of next year?
of 2026.
Okay. Because looking at the counts, it looks like the high school is where the overcrowding is. And my subsequent question to that is, the school on this property is going to be an elementary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Burns, anything else?
I did have a question. I noted in the staff report, it talked about some groundwater locations other than the wetlands. Approximately where, I guess, in the plat would that potentially affect foundations and such things?
Sure, yeah. So there is some lower groundwater. Well, the way the property sits, all this single-family detached is kind of a little bit up higher, and the property kind of slowly gets lower as it gets toward Highway 52. So there's some isolated pockets of potential groundwater in either the duplex or townhome areas, but neither one of them would likely have basements. So it's just it's a non-issue.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was in more of the single-family houses.
Oh, no.
I didn't figure it would be as much of an issue with the townhouses. I just wasn't sure exactly where it was. I just wanted to note I know that the application talks about it goes back to 2014, and with the oil and gas setbacks, with the limits back in 2014 only being 25 feet, but that I appreciate that you guys have accommodated the current setbacks. So I figured that should just be stated.
Thank you.
So it's something that's not always accommodated. People will take advantage of the grandfathering for setbacks, but yeah, don't really want to live on top of an old well. Possible.
Okay, that's it. Commissioner Bam, anything else?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Dripkin?
Nope.
Okay, two, there should be fast. One for the applicant. I didn't see Allo listed as one of the internet providers. Are you working with them?
We're not.
It's right.
We're not. We're not working with any internet providers at this time.
Okay,
I mean we don't get into the dry utilities and
till much later. Okay,
yeah, they won't look at us until we have a final plat.
sounds good.
They're going to be required to.
Yeah, I would expect so.
Well, it's in the contract. They're required to.
Yeah. So it just was, yeah.
Yep.
They listed a few utilities, but not that one. So, all right. The other thing was drainage. This is actually more for staff. There was an interesting comment about FEMA does not have any application on Weld County. Therefore, all areas in white have no recorded floodplains, which I just thought was an interesting note. I wasn't sure.
Was that in the staff report?
No, it was in one of their documents.
Oh, okay.
I was just wondering if you concurred with that. It just seemed like a strange statement.
Yeah, the wording I think does seem a little odd, but I can confirm that the floodplain does not overlap with any of the Spring Hill, where the residential is, or I believe even actually the open space property. But there is floodplain directly to the west of this property.
I did notice them. So that's why I thought that statement was unique.
Yeah, the wording is a little odd on that. I don't know
All right.
exactly.
Anyway.
What it is. Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions? If
Real quickly, I do.
okay.
There are these commitments that are noted in terms of the neighborhood meeting. Specifically, it was the trail connection to the west, construct the landscape berms, provide perimeter fencing, and then maintain the open space areas. Can you just quickly elaborate on those exactly?
Sure.
So first off, trail connection, where exactly this trail connection is this something that's identified already in the landscape plan, or is this something that is still yet to be designed?
No, the trail connection, I'm going to see if I can. No, I can't. Oh, wait, I've got a trail map.
Yes.
So this orange trail heading to the west is the alignment, and there's a bridge over the irrigation ditch, and it goes to the point where the end of the road for the adjacent neighborhood is. So that's memorialized in the landscape plans itself. The berms and plantings are memorialized in the landscape plans. The only thing that's not memorialized in the landscape plans, and it's because the adjacent neighbors, they get to kind of pick their own fence style. So we've met with all the neighbors in the sort of horseshoe-looking area, kind of up by Highway 52 there, and they all know that they can select a fence of their choosing. Some of them want an open fence, some of them want a privacy fence. Some of the larger properties want a combination of privacy and open rail fence on their property. So I don't know if we'll even ever put it in our plans. It's just a commitment that we've made to them.
Okay, is it, just out of curiosity, is it on their property or is it on your property?
If it goes on our property, it'll have to be on our plans.
Correct.
If we put it on their property, which is kind of the conversations we're having, then it would never show up on our plans.
Okay. And then maintain open space areas, protect drainage, irrigation.
Yeah, so they're concerned with anything that kind of comes close to their properties, and we're just making the commitment that any of that private open space is maintained by the Metro District.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Anything else? If not, the time is now 8:49, and I'm closing the public hearing and into
7:49.
I'm sorry, 7:49. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. 7:49, closing the public hearing and into the commissioner deliberations. Open the floor to the commission. Anybody want to start?
So first off, commenting on this whole Highway 52 thing, this is possibly the worst impact study that I've seen in terms of level of service projected. F's up the board, E's around. I mean, we usually see C or D at the worst. Yeah. And that is exactly what the issue has been on 52. I applaud the applicant for working with CDOT and for helping with staff trying to approach CDOT on this, because we've been trying for years to try to get that widened. There are so many accidents, many fatal accidents because of the lack of widening and the lack of infrastructure there. I do have concerns also about the roundabout on 52, but that is not up to us. It is not up to the applicant. It is completely on CDOT. There is another forum to voice your concerns to CDOT, and I would recommend that, highly recommend that, because unless there's enough public outcry, they're just going to drag their feet. I want to applaud you for having the specific items in here that are commitments to you, that you're hearing the residents, that you understand their concerns, and you're trying to address them, and you have not only said in this public hearing, but you have put it in writing what those commitments are. We rarely see that. Usually it's just something, yeah, we'll talk about it afterwards and we'll try to get together, but you have this in here. This is, in my eyes, a well thought out community, lots of open space. I know that there's more plans later to come, but I'm excited to see this. So that's all. Thank you.
I would echo a lot of what he said. I think I noticed in the neighborhood meetings, like how you guys addressed all of the residents, their concerns and their comments. I've also not seen it laid out like that prior. I also think this is going to be a great neighborhood. CDOT, again, no control in this room on how that goes, but it's definitely a concern.
Nothing to add?
Anybody? No. So I'm just going to say it's been a long slog.
Yes.
And I really appreciate everything that you've done, as the others have said too. The traffic study, the trails plan, the irrigation, it's all been great. So I just want to thank you. All right, I think we've had enough deliberation. So who wants to make a motion for P2607 resolution? I have it written down if someone wants to. I can do it. Commissioner Dreckman, thank you.
Okay, motion to approve resolution number P2607, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending approval of the Spring Hill preliminary plat with the conditions.
Second, Burns.
Okay, thank you. So we now have a motion and a second. Does anybody want to request a roll call vote, or if not? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next,
Kind of greedy, pretty greedy, man.
we're, second item is another public hearing, 26207, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending approval to the Town Council of the rezoning of the Sierra Vista property to Community Mixed Use, CMU, and Airport AP. The time is now 7:53, and I'm opening the public hearing. I turn it over to staff and then the applicant for their presentations.
Thank you. Be right with you. Get settled in.
Mr. Barros, would you mind controlling the crowd, please?
Oh, yeah, if we could please have some quiet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm set.
All right,
Sorry, it took me a minute.
it's all right.
Thank you. Chris LaRue, Principal Planner, Town of Erie. I'm here tonight to present the Sierra Vista rezoning request. So this is for a Planning Commission recommendation to Town Council on the rezoning. Also, Town Council will consider a minor subdivision request that will go concurrently with the rezoning, and that's only heard by Town Council. Project size is approximately 60 acres. They're proposing 16 acres to go to airport zoning, 18 acres for CMU, and then another tract that would be 26 acres, and that would also go to CMU, or community mixed use, and AP is airport zoning. So yeah, they're proposing this on 3 tracks with the minor sub. The existing zoning is LR, low density residential, and community commercial. The site is currently undeveloped. So the point in the process that we're at here is at the rezoning that's highlighted on the screen. In the past, 2012 was when the property was annexed into the town. It included an annexation agreement that allowed up to 500 units of multifamily residential There's a little bit of a history on the site that I outlined in the staff report, with some different rezonings, some preliminary plat, and then there were also a couple of minor subdivisions. So this is kind of the first stage, or the first part. If the rezoning is successful, they'll be required to go through both a preliminary plat application and a final plat. Preliminary plat would be a public hearing process that would go before Planning Commission as well as Town Council. The final plat would go typically on the consent calendar for Town Council for review of dedication of the easements and review of the development agreement. If those are successful, site planning would be required for commercial development and any residential development. And so from there, we go to public improvements and then ultimately building permits. This is a multi-year kind of timeline. So we're kind of in the very beginning. So I'll go over the background tonight of the application, what the proposal is, and then the recommendation. So here's the site on the screen highlighted in red. It's northwest of Highway 7 and Bonanza Drive. Bonanza is over here to the east of the property, and Highway 7 is down here to the south. To the north is the Air Park development, and then to the north and west is the Erie Airport. Over here to the east, then, there are some commercial developments consisting of the gas station, daycare, there's a storage facility. Here's a few shots with the Google Street View. This is looking north on Bonanza at Highway 7 that's running east and west. You can see the gas station on the right. The site is on the northwest corner. There's another view looking into the site from that same location. This is looking pretty much directly west with Bonanza going to the north and Highway 7 going to the west. There's another view just looking, this is from higher up on Bonanza, a little north of Highway 7, looking directly west into the site. The existing zoning of the property you can see on the screen is low density residential, and there's also community commercial there on the northwest corner. This would allow, the LR zoning would allow single family detached or duplex at 3 to 5 dwelling units per acre, and the community commercial would allow a full range of community-oriented and retail and service uses. The comprehensive plan designates a majority of the site as employment, and then also corridor commercial. And the employment, kind of the broad uses are employment type uses, such as industrial, flex space, light manufacturing. There could be medical, technical facilities, aeronautical, incubator spaces. The employment use does allow residential. It's supposed to be that it doesn't detract significantly from the primary employment focused intent, but it would allow some. And then, of course, any residential they propose would be in keeping with the annexation agreement. The corridor commercial are uses that generate regional activity along highways and major arterials. Residential can be secondary. There's a variety of comprehensive plan policies that the proposal would hit. It includes mix of housing types to encourage a variety of housing, activity centers for residents, making sure that where new development meets comp plan vision and priorities, encourages infill development, promotes mixed-use neighborhoods, diverse housing opportunities near employment, trying to cultivate a mix of local and creative businesses, potentially expanding use of the airport as a community resource, and locating higher density housing in mixed-use development areas that are served by transit. So here's the applicant's proposal. They are showing an area of AP or airport that's on the northwest of the site there, consists of 15.9 acres. There's community mixed use, 2 areas for that, tracks B and C. The one on the northeast is 26.1 acres, and the one kind of on the south along 7 is 18.4 acres. Community mixed, or airport, I should say, it allows related uses in commercial such as restaurants, offices, or general retail. The community mixed use, when they're of a certain size, that like these are, they have to have a certain number of principal uses. If it's up to 20 acres, they have to have at least 2 uses. Over 20 must have 3 principal uses. One of those uses in each case must be residential. And then each of the different uses within the 3 categories have to have at least 25% of the gross floor area distributed among those different uses. We don't have a proposal exactly of how that would look at this point, given that it's pretty early since it's the rezoning stage. But they have provided this kind of overall concept plan showing the airport use and then the community mixed use in 2 blocks here. It's anticipated that access would come from Bonanza. Any kind of access to 7 would have to be coordinated through CDOT. We would note that the developer has provided several commitments. They're private commitments they've made. They are not zoning requirements, and they're not necessarily enforceable by the town. But they have said they would limit building heights. They would create 40-foot buffers, and then also 100-foot buffers for commercial relative to the residential uses. So the idea would be that they're committing to keep things, especially in the north end, to a more reasonable scale compared to what's developed next to it. So these are the approval criteria that we review rezonings against. I've detailed them in the staff report, so I'll just kind of briefly go over those. There's general promoting public health safety, general welfare, consistent with the comp plan purposes of the UDC. Having adequate facilities and services, streets, transportation, water, gas, utilities. I would note on the transportation, the applicants did submit a detailed traffic study. We reviewed it back and forth quite a bit. There are still a lot of outstanding issues that would be expected to be addressed at future applications with plating and site plans once those come in. But our transportation department reviewed that extensively. It's not anticipated to result in significant and adverse impacts to the environment and surrounding area. It's not likely to result significant adverse impacts on other property. Future uses would need to be compatible in scale. Rezoning is generally consistent with town's economic development goals and objectives to bring positive growth to the town. So we do find that the application complies with the approval criteria and recommends the Planning Commission adopt the resolution recommending the Town Council approve the Sierra Vista rezoning to airport, AP, and community mixed use as shown on the zoning map. Applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting last year in the fall. They reported 47 attendees. Seems like they had a variety of questions on uses, traffic, and utilities for the site. The hearing tonight has been appropriately published in the paper, posted with a notice sign, and letters sent to property owners adjacent to the site. So that concludes the staff presentation tonight for the Sierra Vista rezoning. The applicant does have a presentation. I will pull that up for them, and I'll put the mouse for them to control over here.
Thank you.
And let's see.
Let me just see. Make sure I can get this thing to work. Okay. Hello, distinguished planning commissioners. My name is Heidi Majerick. I am with Gage Land Development. I am an owner's rep to the applicant. I'm so pleased to be here tonight with you all. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present to you real quick. I'm not sure if I need to provide it, but address is 8827 East 35th Avenue, Denver. Also wanted to thank Chris for the great presentation. I'm going to try not to replicate the things he's already said because you guys have been here for a while already. I do want to take a moment to introduce our team in the front row and let you know that they'll all be available for your questions. We have Diana Rayal and Becca Bailey, who are both with Norris. They are the land planners. We've got Kevin Lovelace with LJA, the engineer, as well as Wyatt Carlson, who is the owner. Let's see. I think you already understand the site, so we're going to skip through that. And then we just wanted to talk a little bit about the zone districts that we're asking for. Chris had reviewed those for you, and we are asking for approval on that, as well as the supporting minor subdivision, which will bring us into compliance, bring the site into compliance with the comp plan. So the zone districts before you tonight were selected in collaboration with town staff and consideration of the town's stated goals in the comp plan, as well as the needs and the desires that have been expressed by the FAA through the years on the previous rezoning and applications that Chris had in his staff report. And specifically, what we've heard from them in the past is they want bigger setbacks off of the airport than that were previously provided, and specifically around residential development. And so that AP zone district, in addition to the mixed use, was selected to try to address those issues that we heard. And we'll kind of take a look later in the presentation of a map that shows you the restrictions around the airport. And so I'm going to turn it over to Di to just go through, sorry, Diana, we've known each other for a long time. You got the nickname there. Ask her to go through in more detail that comprehensive plan and the zoning.
And I'm going to borrow this. Thank you, Heidi. Good evening. As Heidi mentioned, I'm Diana Rael from Norse Design. We're at 1101 Bannock Street in Denver, Colorado, 80204. It's nice to be here this evening. Just a quick point on the comp plan and a little bit of history. In 2015, the comp plan for this area, as you can see, maybe I can use the mouse. Oh, no, that scrolls. There were two districts similar to today. The biggest difference from what you'll see from 2015 to 2024, which is the current comp plan on the left, is the nomenclature changed a little bit from mixed use, MU in the pink, in 2015, and community commercial to employment and corridor commercial. So a little bit of nomenclature change. I think with all intents and purposes, the employment designation sort of has the same form and function as what used to be mixed use. So you heard a lot of that in Chris's presentation as well, and some of the uses that we're presenting. I do want to point out in the existing zoning with the LR, low density residential, you'll notice that that does not necessarily comply with the comp plan. Low density residential only allows for two types of single family and single family attached residential, which by no means is employment or in any way mixed use. So we believe that the rezoning proposed here on the right side with the airport, as Heidi mentioned, further buffers to the airport, to the active runway on the west, in addition to the CMU district, which allows for corridor commercial and employment in that zone, is a more proper zone category for the property. And then Chris already showed this graphic. It just kind of shows you everything sort of blended into the two land uses. But in this case, we've got those uses highlighted on this slide, and it kind of shows you the types of uses we would anticipate in an airport zone on the left there, with a variety of uses, many of which are also in the staff report highlighted by Chris, with anything from general retail, restaurants, aviation support, offices, utility facilities, those types of things. Again, very mixed use category. And then the community mixed use zone district, CMU, which allows for the mix of uses. We do have to have 3 in the area. And then one predominant use of at least 25%. And that kind of shows you a list of the types of uses that could happen there. All together, we believe that this is a more diverse plan, a better mix of uses, the ability to provide employment, retail, housing, and activity centers for the community. So again, kind of supporting the vision of the comp plan with a wide variety of uses. And with that, I'll hand it back to Heidi.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Diana. So this slide it details our application and review process for this rezoning and minor subdivision. We conducted 2 community meetings, one properly noticed, and we did conduct a second one as well. From those meetings, you saw we had 47 people sign up, so we did create a stakeholder email list from that. And from that, because we were hearing, varied concerns from the community, and there was, a lot of interest in, it's always stressful when a piece of property gets rezoned near yours. We decided to put together a stakeholder list of all of the emails that we could collect. And then after that, we sent out 4 emails that included links to our resubmittals, as well as summaries of what changed in each application to try to help the community digest it. And then we also provided notification to the neighborhood, all of our stakeholders of tonight's hearing, as well as town council hearing in the event that we are approved this evening. And so in addition, myself and Becca made ourselves available as much as we possibly could. The community was really engaging with us. They did reach out to us. They reached out to us with phone calls and emails, always very respectful, really nice dialogue with the neighbors. We appreciated the way they treated us, and we spent as much time as we possibly could talking to them. And so, you got it back. Oh, you're my wingman. You have to let them. So with that many people engaged, there are a lot of stakeholders. So we're going to kind of go through some of the big bucket item concerns we heard from the community. It certainly won't be exhaustive because with that many people, you're going to get a lot of different voices. Sometimes those voices don't agree. And so, that's our job to kind of sort through that and see how we can at least make it better. So, first, we heard concerns from the Anthem residents in Broomfield, as well as the city and county of Broomfield. And we heard concerns from them that this rezoning would increase air traffic. And then additionally from the city of Broomfield, through our review process, we heard a second comment from them, which was wanting to restrict some of the uses in the town of Gray's AP zoning code. So after we heard these concerns from the first meeting, from Anthem and Broomfield about increasing air traffic, we talked to staff, and after that, we hired an avigation consultant, which was Mead and Hunt, to assess the impacts of the proposed AP zoning on air traffic and operations. And so what Mead and Hunt found, they found that the proposed rezoning to AP is not expected to increase air traffic or change operations. And then additionally, we communicated with Jason Hurd, the airport manager, and he indicated that this rezoning, which is on the east side of the airport, would not change the way aircraft operate or aircraft traffic patterns, and that there would be no change to the approach or departure corridors. And it's important to note that the airport operations occur, with the exception of the aviators in the air park. The airport operations occur on the west side, not the east side. The east side is the aviators in the air park. So out of these concerns, we tweaked our original boundary in our rezoning. We included a little more CMU to try to address those concerns from Anthem and Broomfield, and decrease the AP and increase the CMU. And because we are not requesting specialized zoning tonight, we're requesting your straight zone code. Broomfield's desires to limit the allowed uses in the town's AP zone district would be more appropriately addressed in a future application after a preliminary plat, a site development plan. Because at this time we are just requesting straight zone code. And so this is that map I said we get to, where we want to look at the FAA's restrictions. So there's a part of the FAA's rules called Part 77 that lays out restrictions around airport usage. So in this map, you'll see the dotted line. That's the runway protection zone. And then the color bands that are coming out in kind of that V shape, those are the height restrictions around things that get built around the airport. So you can see this proposed rezoning places the majority of the FAA's restrictions into the proposed AP zoning, which was, important to the FAA, and that's the genesis of these two zone districts that you're looking at. Additionally, you can see that development opportunities outside of these restrictions is limited in the proposed area of the AP zoning. And so, it really isn't going to be possible to build more airport, to build more runways, to build something like that. So, so then, talking to the folks in the air park, we heard really reasonable concerns from these residents. They're concerned about protecting their current navigation easements. They have an easement on the north side of this property to access the airport. So want to make sure that that always gets protected for them. And because we have these low-density single-family houses on the north side, they're rightfully concerned about any kind of loud commercial use adjacent to their property that could, impact their quality of life. And then they also had expressed concerns about the types of buildings, residential buildings that could come up to them in a multifamily use, wanting to see quality architecture and appropriate massing and step backs, so we don't have big buildings shading their homes. So those were all, reasonable concerns that we heard from those folks. And so we went back to staff and worked with them to provide some notes on the minor subdivision that address these. So looking at limiting height structures, and Chris already went through this, setting back commercial development and making sure their easement is protected. And then I think we're just gonna skip over, that's the minor subdivision. We're gonna skip over the review criteria because Chris already did a great job with that. And so these are the next steps that Chris reviewed as well with you, that it has to go to preliminary plat, it has to go to a site development plan. So, just a reminder that this is just a rezoning. And one real quick thing, we did get a comment that came in late today, a written comment, that I did just want to address. If you will bear with me, I want to pull up the email. This person had indicated that they were concerned because staff notes that access to the site is only planned from Bonanza. So did want to let you know that CDOT in their access control plan does have an access point to this site on Highway 7. So, and you did hear that we did a preliminary traffic impact analysis with this site. Now, it is just a rezoning, so we don't know what will be on this site. Wyatt does not have any contracts for purchase and sale on the land. There's no designated or identified use for the land yet. And so without that, a traffic impact study becomes kind of challenging. You have to make assumptions. Because the rezoning by the UDC requires the minor subdivision to have the tracks that match, that triggers the traffic impact study. But when it goes to preliminary plat and then a site plan, then you know what the uses are. You can do a detailed final traffic impact analysis. So with that, I'm going to let you know that we're all available for questions. And thanks again. Oh, and please approve us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The time is now 8:20, and we'll move to public testimony. I'm assuming there is some, given the number of people here.
I do. I have Brian Bednar.
Okay, so the same comments as I made before are still in play, that limited 3 minutes per person. When you're called upon, you're required to state your name and place of residence For the record, if you're appearing on behalf of a person or organization, please provide the name and place of residence of that person or organization you're representing. Public comment is not interactive question and answer, but rather time for you to state your comments on a particular item or issue. You'll give an audible warning when you have 20 seconds, and then the color light comes on, and at 3 minutes, you'll be asked to stop talking, basically. All right.
I'm Brian Bednar, 280 Skylane Drive in Erie. Thank you, Commissioner Sawich, for sharing my notes with the others ahead of time. My home borders on the north edge of the proposed rezoned land. I have three main concerns. My first concern is that by rezoning this to mixed use, the Planning Commission and the town is essentially giving free rein to the developer to decide what they want to put on that land, as opposed to a specific use being approved for zoning like it is right now. And that's relevant as evident by my second point, and that is that staff's presentation does not address the UDC requirement 10.2.4A6, which specifically says that mixed-use developments must ensure that the appearance and function of development in mixed-use areas is appropriately compatible and appropriately integrated with surrounding neighborhoods. And in this case, you have rural residential to the north, alpaca farm to the east, a lot of low density, and we don't know what we're going to get with this mixed use. Not only does staff not mention this requirement right out of the UDC, they state that the applicant's development proposal to limit height and establish setbacks is not enforceable. I would argue that the UDC that asks for demonstration of that functional appropriate compatibility and integration in surrounding neighborhoods is definitely enforceable. So I would strongly recommend that any approval for a rezoning includes a demonstration of how they're going to satisfy that part of the UDC. And the third point that I have is one that's been beat to death on the previous development, but that is traffic. If you were to drive on Bonanza today, you would notice that just where the proposed entrance is to this entire development is right over the crest of a hill. And this is a narrow two-lane road, and people go flying over that hill, and that's where they would see that left-turning traffic into the development.
20 seconds.
Something significantly needs to be done to regulate that traffic if you're going to have that much flowing in and out of that part of our neighborhood. And I appreciate this opportunity to address the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in person signed up?
Next, I have Tim, and I'm not even going to attempt the last name. Durnick. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tim Durnick. I live at 3040 Cherokee Court in the Air Park. I wanted to address some of the rezoning issues. I'm not going to get it all in 3 minutes. Now, as I'm seeing this, this wasn't part of my planned comments, but I'm seeing that a lot of the problems we're having is coming from sort of the poison chalice of the comp plan making this an employment. I think we're just at the south end of the thing. Employment suddenly, for some reason, makes the low-density residential, the low-density residential incompatible with employment. However, that's the appropriate step to go from rural residential up to, that's an appropriate increase in zoning, going up to the low-density residential, which it currently is. Going to mixed use and AP, especially AP that doesn't have any usage as presented to the airport proper. This is going to become what we've seen on the west side, and is going to become industrial overlay and we're going to be living next to an industrial park, as the residents on the west side are currently doing. So we've seen this happen already before. Also wanted to quickly address the 40-foot setback on the north side as it abuts the rural residential. The 40-foot setback is already currently, as we've talked about, there is an easement, a 40-foot easement on that north side that runs almost the full length. So that's not truly a concession. That's already an easement. The important thing is that that easement is an active taxiway. That's an aircraft movement easement. By what we're seeing here, a future developer can put a childcare center directly abutting a aircraft movement easement. We want to protect that for not only for the safety concerns, obviously, and the noise complaints that we're already dealing with, but for security for the airport. That taxiway is a direct conduit onto the runway. So we can address that with fences and setbacks and things. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to have density housing right there with dogs and kids and stuff that are right up against that. So there's a lot of other issues that we could do it, but I'm going to run out of time. We've sort of bifurcated the system to have AP on the north
20
or on
seconds.
the west, and thank you. Yes, CCMU. And both of those things, instead of going from north to south, where the commercial slowly gradiates into.
Sorry.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments.
Okay, next I have Johan Morris.
Hi, I'm Johan Morris. I live in the air park. I'm also on the HOA board. And I'd just like to repeat what Tim has said. First, going from rural residential directly to mixed use on its face, to me, doesn't make sense. The easement that aircraft easement that Tim has talked about, if you've got, whether it's an airplane, or whether it's a helicopter going on that easement, as it's currently stipulated, it doesn't seem like there's enough of a buffer. 40 feet is for an aircraft wing or a propeller for a helicopter. What's going to be on the other side? So there are a lot of questions with that. I was kind of shocked at the pictures that were shown of the intersections and the various orientations. It looks like a beautiful flat piece of ground. I invite you to take your car and go drive over there. It's a significant hill, like you've heard in some of the testimony. So it's not flat at all, coming off of going south on Bonanza or going north up the hill to Bonanza. So those are my quick comments, and I'll forward some other neighborly comments to you guys via email. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I do have a few people online, so if I have anyone online that would like to speak on this agenda item, please raise your hand and I can bring you into the meeting. And I have no hands raised.
Okay. So thank you all for your comments. The time is now 8:29. Would the applicant or staff like to make any comments based on those comments?
You have a few too? Okay. So just had a few thoughts from the public comment that we just heard. First, talking about Bonanza, the residents here know it so well. That is a hill. The picture does look flat. It's not. It's a good hill. And so if and when, designated uses are identified for this site, a preliminary plat with a final TIA and site plan are going to have to address where appropriate access can be made on both Bonanza and Highway 7. Mr. Dernick had talked about the easement and, valid concerns about having children get into the way of aircraft. That is really, really important, that it's going to have to be addressed at time of site plan, specifically with fencing and other things. And I appreciated the last person who spoke indicating that 40-foot width is really the width of the wings and the propellers. So again, at time of site plan, it's going to be important to look at, potentially larger buffers off of that and assuring that public health and safety is taken care of.
And I would just like to add to, on Mr. Bednar's comment of just having a free rein on any mixed uses. We still have to follow the public procedures for plating, for site plans, to be able to do any use, right? We're coming back to you. Again, we're coming back to City Council as well. So it's not a free rein. We would have to prove up those uses and prove up the compatibility and everything else from the code. And I think one little thing I want to add is on those plat notes, despite those not being enforceable by the town at this point, we would commit at the dais tonight to abide by those requirements and additional plat notes that were added.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have anything, Chris? Or?
I don't at the moment, unless
Okay.
there's something specific you'd like me to address.
No, yeah, that's fair. All right, so we'll move to commissioner questions. Let's start with two, as we usually do. Commissioner Dreckman, you want to start?
Okay, Chris, I have a question for you. When you guys were doing the comp plan, was there any feedback, or can you talk through the decision to go from this like rural residential to straight to employment, like, or how the town kind of came to that decision?
Yeah,
I can
or
probably
you
answer
can.
that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. Yep, sorry.
As the applicant had pointed out, it was previously mixed use, not
Right.
a residential use. So the employment was after consultation with our economic development team, the airport advisory board, property owners, to recognize that that is a significant commercial corridor that could handle sort of those more employment type uses.
Okay.
But also, some residential that could buffer.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And then, I guess one more question for Chris. You said that I know that they looked into traffic, which is preemptive because there's no site plan in place. But you just said there was a lot of outstanding questions from the town. Is that just meaning like if and when a site plan came forward that there would be a lot of questions, or like I just think you said there were outstanding questions. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so they did provide a traffic study analysis, and obviously without having specific uses, there's some assumptions and things. So looking through the comments that Nick had made, he had provided all of these as an advisory in terms of like things we would expect once site plans and plating comes forward. So it's not that we have like major fundamental concerns with the study, but we do have concerns with some of the things in it, and we'd like to see make sure that it's brought more up to speed. Nick's comments are in the packet, but in general, there's a lot of technical stuff, but sort of how you look at the numbers, we'd like some look at that. We talked about, he'd mentioned any kind of accesses to Highway 7 shouldn't be presumed in the study until they've been fully vetted through CDOT, adjusting the peak hours based on some of the formulas that he's looking at for best practices. Things like that. I could give more details, but that's broadly kind of what we're looking at. So I don't want to paint the picture that we were rejecting the traffic study. I just, like any development, we always have a lot of comments on stuff. So
that makes sense. I was just, okay.
Anything else?
Nope, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Commissioner Bam?
On the different uses, we have prospectively maybe 3 for AP and 1 for CM or for CMU also. For the uses, we'd have 3 for both AP and CMU.
I'm not sure I understand. There's 3 parcels, tracks A, B, and C. B and C are proposed for CMU. Tract A would be for the AP. Were you talking about the square footages? Sorry.
No, the permitted uses. All of those uses would be allowed.
Oh, yes,
That's
with
what
straight zoning, anything that's listed underneath a zoning category could potentially be allowed in the zoning.
Okay.
Right. Obviously, that's a very broad statement. I mean, there's a lot of things we'll have to consider through site planning and plating in terms of requirements that we have for those uses. I think Heidi outlined some of the restrictions because of the airport height things. So those are all going to contribute towards what they can and can't do in that location. And clearly there's an existing easement for the taxiway. I just want to recognize that. That's adequately depicted on the minor subdivision for the tracks. Yeah, they can't impede that in any way. Did that answer your question, or is there more you need?
No, Chris, it did.
Okay.
That was all from me.
Okay.
I guess related to that, is there a reason why the CMU is split into 2 separate parcels?
I'm going to look to Heidi for that. I took this project over for another planner who had left the town. I don't know that answer. Heidi, do you know?
You don't know.
I don't. I'm sorry. I probably should have anticipated that.
Yes, that's just looking ahead to a future preliminary plat and what the potential split out would be for more like medical office uses or commercial uses that are going to front Highway 7 versus likely a residential use towards the back of the property. So now the site will still have to go through a preliminary plat, so that will wipe out the minor subdivision, but it's just anticipating that kind of split on the site.
That's a good point. I mean, these are broad tracks, so thanks for sharing that. So any subdivision, you know how subdivisions break down into smaller lots, you'd anticipate pad sites, or if they're proposing any kind of multifamily, it get broken down further.
The reason I ask is, given some of the concerns maybe along the northern edge there, along the easement for the taxiway, if it were possible to not just have straight zoning allowances and conditioned allowances instead, similar
Right.
to what
So
we've done.
that's not something we could consider with a rezoning request, putting conditions on that. I mean, they can make commitments to that. We would expect those to be honored. If they wanted to do something like you're proposing, you'd probably have to take a step back and then adjust the request. Like if you're talking about like a planned unit development or.
And that's why I bring it up, is if it was determined that maybe treating those 2 parcels somewhat differently in terms of potential uses because of potential issues with the adjacent property, if this is the appropriate time, or if that is something that's going to come up in the preliminary plat. Because from what my understanding is, if we approve straight zoning, it's
Right. Well, there are some safeguards, I guess, in play. One of which was the, sorry, I got to look back at my notes. Mr. Bedmer referenced UDC 1024A6. Those are not findings that you review, or findings of fact that you review the rezoning request against. But what those are broad sort of descriptions of our zone districts and broad sort of expectations of how those would develop. I was trying to look at that one again. I think it had to do with surrounding uses. Here, let me find it. So again, 1024 or 1024. Thanks for bearing with me here for a second. Yeah, it just kind of talks about compatibility with that. So when you look at those broad guidelines, those are the things that we're going to expect to see as the project developments, is to incorporate those. We're going to ask them to address some of those concerns and whatever development they bring forth to show how they're going to meet these requirements.
I don't, I'm assuming everybody is hearing the comments and they're understanding what the concerns are. It's more, I would hate to lose the opportunity to maybe need to condition some of this. I'm not sure that this is as strict a condition as we had in other hearings where, it was right on top of another property. But
it's true, it's not as strict.
Yeah.
I agree.
And so it's the only reason I bring it up is just to acknowledge the concerns there, and if it's something that we can work towards with the preliminary plat and plats and site plan development as you go
That would
forward.
definitely be expectations on our ends.
And Commissioner Burns, I might add as well, as I mentioned too, again, coming back with the site plan, we'd be subject to all the conditions of the code and to meet those conditions. And so a big part of that would be, we really see retail along the frontage of Highway 7, visibility is critical. There would be a transition of use to the north. And I think that, knowing Bonanza is not a through street, it ends in Air Park as a dead end. So from a traffic standpoint, it's sort of, I guess, ends, you're not going to put an intense use on that street further into the north as it abuts the Air Park residents.
Correct.
From a planning standpoint, with all practicality, we would transition uses to the north. So you would start to see things stepping down from an intensity standpoint.
And I appreciate that, because I think that is what hopefully everybody expects in terms of working with the community towards the final site plan. It's the concern that, well, if it's not restricted, well, we can turn around and we can still do this kind of thing, despite what people are saying or concerned about. That's what the concern is.
Yeah, and I think we'd have to hold up the measurement of compatibility at that point if we were trying to do something that was really flies in the face of a rural residential. From a planning standpoint, we don't know what those uses are yet, but obviously we'd come back and we'd have to prove that out to not only you but the residents. I'm sure there would be many more meetings and discussions and staff as well. So it was, again, ongoing.
Just not like an open air nightclub facing.
No, we would not do that. That was
We heard that loud.
we did hear that.
No nightclub on the property line.
Right.
And so, and I guess my other kind of question is really more of a comment, just regarding the slide in the presentation that was it talked about, like the building heights, because I know there's concern that someone can come in here. It noted that there's not restricted by FAA specifically, but the CMU designation does limit it to 3 stories. It's 45 feet, I think. So we would be limited by the UDC for maximum height, just not the FAA for flight path coming in.
Right, and then we would further restrict that, and as it's closer to the property, to 40 feet. So you're even stepping down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess there's a reason I'm not a traffic engineer, because I thought there was a good point about Bonanza and that hill. I don't know how you engineer that road to get in and out of a business area without using Highway 7, but I know that will come out later. So that was more just a comment. I want to talk about the residential component of this. I'm not sure if I'm understanding the potential for how much residential can go in there with this mixed use.
You mean in terms of square footages, or I haven't done the exact math, but the way it works out in terms of mixed use areas, that you take the total area, 25% of the gross floor area for your primary uses have to be occupied by that use. So you have to have at least those numbers for the 2 uses in each area. I haven't sort of.
So there would be residential in both of those?
There has to be
There
for
has to be.
the zoning code. One of the primary uses must be residential.
Okay. And then I think I was looking at, some of the staff recommendations. I think I was looking at the history of this
Yes.
property, which was annexed back in 2012. And at that time, did I see where there was the ability to have 500?
So there's a couple things there. The annexation agreement itself allows up to 500 units of multifamily. So obviously that is sort of a consideration. Then if you look through the history, yes, maybe I'm anticipating some questions, but it had been rezoned to high density residential at one point back in 2012. I think there's a lot of history there. I wasn't around for that one, but I've heard a little bit. I think there was a lot of opposition at that time. There wasn't a lot of huge development or the amount of intensity or commercial that we have now. So I think the time wasn't right. And I don't know who was developing at the time, but decided that wasn't going to work out for them. In 2014, it eventually went to low density residential. They thought probably maybe that would stick better, and proposed a subdivision for that for 165 single family lots. I don't know why this occurred, but the application was withdrawn. I don't know if it maybe had to do with, I don't know if there was some conflicts with the airport, or I don't know if the applicants have any history on that, but the decision was made to withdraw that one. So that's kind of where it sat till now.
And is the high density, is that what would have allowed the 500?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
The high density, is that what would have allowed the 500 units?
Well, the zoning would have. The annexation agreement would allow up to that number. That's sort of what the town agreed with the developer at that time. So the high density at that time, I guess that was probably what they were shooting for.
Okay.
But it's no longer zoned high density, as we've outlined. It got rezoned. So per zone, you couldn't do that many, but in order to honor the annexation agreement, it would need to be rezoned to hit that 5. Well, I'm not sure how many they would be proposing at this point. I haven't seen, but
okay,
if they're doing that. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's it for now.
Okay. Commissioner Salich?
Okay, I'm going to ask if the applicant would like to talk about why the application from 2015, 2016 was withdrawn.
I can poke and see if
I can address that.
Please.
Yeah, that's the conflict with the FAA that we were referencing earlier in the presentation, and the genesis of why we're proposing the AP zoning.
Okay. For staff or for the applicant, do we know exactly where EIK's navigation easement is?
do you know, you had the map open. Maybe you could share that and talk to that question.
I think we're in your presentation.
Oh, sorry, hang on. I'll move it over for
I
you.
thought maybe ours was at the bottom.
Nope, I've got it. Oh, it's the wrong one. There we go. And maybe you could address Commissioner Salvich's question.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, could you repeat the question?
The navigation easement for the airport, where it is restrictive of any development or within proximity of development, then basically requires FAA review.
Okay, so you're talking about this slide, correct? The Part 77 restrictions on the airport, not the navigation easement on the north side of the property?
Yes, I think it's the next slide.
Oh, I apologize. Maybe I misunderstood what you're asking. I thought we were looking for those height restrictions. Were you referencing the airplane access taxiways?
First with the navigation easement. So
that's the airspace. That's the
Okay,
map.
so that's this exhibit.
This one,
Okay.
right?
This
Yep.
one.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, now I'm confused.
That one?
we have two different things I'm going to get into. So navigation easement first.
Okay, so that goes back to the previous slide, the navigation easement.
The next slide. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the easement that's on the north side of the property that's included in the minor subdivision that has,
I can try. Yes, I can do that.
that gives express rights to to the residents of the air park. So that easement can't be removed, it can't be replaced, it will be, when this comes in for a preliminary plat, it will be there as well. And then as this goes through the process of site plans, it'll need to look at making sure that all of the safety concerns are addressed.
Okay, so just to clarify, as of right now, there is a navigation easement on the property. However, that doesn't mean that that is the only amount of land that is going to not be built on. There could be additional buffer that is required at a later date or that is planned because it is in close proximity of a navigation easement, and we want to make sure that we're not having any issues with that.
I think I understand now. Sorry
Correct.
for my confusion. Yes, they can't change the easement that's already existing. It's recorded by, so they can't impede that or change that, not without permissions. So that's restrictive. They've made some commitments in terms of setbacks for commercial height and setbacks for residential. And then, of course, anything on the previous slide with the colors where FAA may limit heights would have a limiting factor on development.
Okay. So now into the second part. So within proximity of flight patterns, within proximity of on airport premises, question is, if we are now having this as airport zoned, does that force FAA review of this development at a later date?
Well, we would typically always send it that way. We send it to the airport manager. And
Yeah, they're in the airport influence zone, and they're referred to the FAA. Any project within that area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes, you're good. Thank you.
And if I understand, in 2015, 2016, it was the proximity of residential to the flight patterns. That was the major concern and resulted in one of the only times that I've ever seen this happen, a determination and recommendation of denial, and shortly thereafter, that's when the application ended back in 2015, 2016.
That's correct.
It was withdrawn by the applicant at that time, so that removed it from any further consideration.
Okay. It had moved through the planning commission, if I understand.
Yes,
They were the ones who did the resolution of denial, recommendation for denial, and shortly thereafter, that's when it got pulled before it got to Board of Trustees.
Not 100% sure on that. I could check, but I was reading some of it earlier. That seems right. I would want to double check.
Okay.
I can try to do that.
All right. I know I'm at two questions, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I had a traffic question, which in the staff report, it said there wasn't going to be access then to 7, and now I understand there is. So,
Apologies.
It's right.
Wasn't one discussed per se at this high level, but I'll update that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
it
we
doesn't
did,
matter.
and we did switch planners so we want to go easy on Chris. that
Please,
is in
thank you.
the access control
But-
plan.
yes, so my question is, where was the access point? They talk about Drive C, Sierra Vista Drive, which doesn't exist at this point.
I'm
Didn't think.
guessing they probably had some preliminary ones in the traffic study. I'll look over to.
Yeah, I saw it in the traffic study, but I couldn't figure out where it was.
The
on the
the
map.
access on Highway 7 and
Yes.
so it's towards the western portion
Okay.
of the site.
All right. And just a comment, you had mentioned that Bonanza is not really a through street. I used to live in the west portion of Vista Ridge, and it definitely was a through street. That people use that to get into Vista Ridge, just to let you know.
Oh, like a back door?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a big deal, but I'm very familiar with the hill and stuff because I used to go that way.
I guess we should clarify there's not an official town right of way that would facilitate that.
No, it's, but it does give you
It
access.
could be a social access, yeah.
If you're going west or coming from the west, that's the easiest way to get in and out of that subdivision, so. The next question was about excavation, and this is gonna seem weird, but around TH6, which I assume was test hole 6, it talked about some need based on the soil analysis to maybe do over excavation there or something.
Oh, yeah, that's very common. There's
Yeah.
a lot of expansive soils that occur. I think Vista Ridge has definitely had some issues with that. It's a way to sort of look at how they do the soil to make it
Yep.
suitable for development and try to limit the swell potential.
Yeah. And so, I was wondering if you had any concerns.
Yeah. From our standpoint, no, that's very common
Yeah.
in the soils, not just in the town of Erie,
Oh,
but
yeah.
all of the Front Range, that generally over-X is needed to make the soil structural. So
Yep.
it's kind of
And-
our common practice here.
We would
We
refer.
wish it wasn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
One of
speak
the
over
things I ran into, it turns out that I had a natural radon system because there was space underneath the house. And so anyway, so there are actually some good things come out of it, surprisingly, but anyway.
We'll do a referral to Colorado Geologic Survey through all the future applications for plating to look at those soil analysis and studies. They often have general recommendations for that often turn into notes that they have to abide by for CDs and construction.
And then one quick comment, which I know we've heard before, was that this is zoning versus site plan. And so just let people know there's a difference in the requirements that we have to follow based on that. And so a lot of the concerns that were raised today will come up in the site plan. And there are at least 2 other opportunities for community involvement, so.
Yes, and for site plans specifically, there's a couple different versions. There's administrative reviews based on square footages. Large developments like multifamily will always do a comprehensive site plan that is reviewed by the planning commission.
Commissioner Redmond, did you have anything else?
Nope, I think I'm good.
Commissioner Bam?
I did have one question. In light of potentially with these commercial uses and with multifamily residential, is there a RTD stop close to this? Just curious.
Oh gosh, we've talked about a lot of that with access along Highway 7. Is there a stop there? I think there's some planned stops, and I think they were doing things with like the call ahead writing. Kelly, do you know like the specifics? I'm answering very broadly here.
I don't at this point, and my computer died, so I can't look anything up. I'm
Because
sorry.
I know that the BRT expansion, I thought might be a good opportunity for something because there's not a lot until you get to up the hill, really.
I think there was some talk further to the east about a stop in Vista Ridge or along Vista Ridge, but I don't know where that's at.
Closer to Mountain View or something.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, closer to.
We'll commit to double checking with transportation and maybe adding a few blurbs about that in the update for town council.
I think that would be beneficial for commercial and especially residential if we're looking at it, for higher density.
Yes.
That's all.
Do you have anything else, Commissioner Booth?
Yes. My next question was about that easement, and we talked about potentially that 40-foot buffer. That 40-foot buffer would be in addition, like you're not using that as the 40-foot buffer.
The restriction we put was 40 foot off the property line. So when we get to a site plan with what we heard from the community today, we'd need to look at increasing that.
Okay.
Those commitments are definitely ones that the developer is making, but just a clarification, it looked like, weren't you doing 100 foot for commercial?
That was commercial.
Right.
Yeah, 100
Okay.
foot commercial setback.
All right. Just wanted to-
If there were any commercial.
Right.
And then I'm hoping we're going to ask more questions about residential in the airspace. So I think I might have more questions, but I'll see if he expands on his questions.
Okay, Commissioner Salich?
I'll leave those questions for you if you want to come back to that. There was a comment that staff had made earlier. It was saying that specific transportation items needed to be addressed in the site plan process. I see that in the third submittal referral notes, it appears there was a discrepancy or a difference of opinion in terms of how exactly trip generations were determined. Is that what you were referring to, or are there specific items?
I was trying to keep it high level. I'm not a traffic engineer, so I kind of fumbled through that. But yes, he referenced some sort of curve, something formula that was maybe a little bit difference of opinion on how it was originally proposed versus how we would want to see it. So yes.
Okay. For the applicant, since the initial traffic impact study would be applicable to the changes for this zoning in terms of trip generation, there were comments made about the method in which the trip generation, the forecasted trips to be generated from this was about half of what was anticipated or forecasted by the individual providing the referral comments. Have we come to terms? Have we addressed this? How exactly do we understand what the trip generation is? Because the initial impact, the traffic impact study is a basis for our consideration here. And if there is a concern about how exactly the forecasted trips were generated, how they were actually calculated, obviously that impacts, no pun intended, impacts our decision potentially. So again, wanted to give you the moment to say your piece on what exactly happened and how we're resolving the discrepancy.
Yes, I called it the wrong thing. It was a fitted curve equation. So
Yes.
That's what I was trying to come up with.
So doing a traffic impact study on rezoning without actual identified uses so we can really do trip generation, we had to make assumptions, right? And so that was a iterative process with the town's engineers to get to a method of assumptions that was, that we could all agree upon and get to this point where staff is recommending approval. Now, if and when a preliminary plat and a site plan come in and real uses are identified, then that'll be able to narrow in and focus and have the numbers be real. Because at this point in time, they're assumptions of what could be and not what will be.
And typically, that's why we have a concept plan as part of this, so we can understand what the idea is behind it. Obviously, there's still things to move around, but so if I understand this correctly, we don't know what we don't know, but by preliminary plat, if that time does come, we would obviously have more detailed requirements as per our code, as well as this gets fleshed out, where we understand exactly what this is going to look like, what is needed in certain specific areas, roundabouts, signal warrants, whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. I would note that Nick's comments do say that they're advisory at this point. Yes, when you read them, it seems like we're disagreeing. I guess we are a little bit. We think the numbers will be a little bit higher. So we'll talk about that when they come in with those future applications. But the point of this is when that study comes in, here's kind of the guidelines we are expecting to see when it comes in, so that it doesn't have to potentially go through a bunch of reviews on that.
And I believe the applicant had said earlier that CDOT has preliminary access proposed via Highway 7. So that is direct access. I'm assuming it's going to be partial motion into the property off of Highway 7, is not related to the proposed or upcoming moving of the Airport Drive having the full access, fully signalized intersection it's not related to that. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. It is fully related to CDOT's access control plan, and you are correct, it is limited movement.
Yeah, I would expect that would be right in, right out. I wouldn't think you'd ever see full movement. That would be a surprise.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I will pause there and turn it back to the chair, vice chair,
Whatever.
acting chair.
Did you end up with any other questions?
Well, I think I want to go back to whatever the comments were about the FFA and residential in there before, and that was what ultimately led to a denial. So I'm trying to figure out how this is different than what it was back then. What's changed?
Sure. So the current zoning has residential all the way up to that boundary that we showed in that exhibit. And now it does not. It has that buffer using the AP. And that's why we selected that zone code.
Okay. That's it.
Anybody else have anything else? Nope. Okay, if not, the time is now 9:06, and I'm closing the public hearing and into commissioner deliberations. I'll open the floor. Anybody want to start? Why don't you?
Sure. First off, thank you to staff and thank you to the applicant for answering our questions. Sometimes it feels like we're grilling you, I'm sure. This is a unique property here in town. It is a vacant property that falls to the idea of what this is supposed to be in terms of this zoning classification, in terms of the community mixed use. It's supposed to be these barren areas of land that are in high traffic corridors. It does fit that. However, we do obviously have the current residential homes on the north side. So this is going to be something that whatever does potentially come about, it has to fit in and it has to work with the neighbors to the north. Having previously been the liaison to the Airport Economic Development Advisory Board, I know that before this application even came about, there was some conversation about this, and they even believe that moving to airport on that west side was beneficial for the economic development for the airport as well. It does provide the ability to have these aviation-related needs that airport has facilitated within this property. I'm not 100% positive, but I think this may be within the current airport URA or just outside of it. So that would be something I recommend staff looking into for the next meeting that might come about this. But I do feel that this could work. It isn't a blank. It isn't a blank zoning classification that we're doing on this. This is very different than, say, one of the other applications that we saw where it was a PD and literally they wanted everything under the sun. This is straight zoning. It works a lot differently than those. There is some ambiguity. There is a laundry list of these different items of what they can or cannot actually be permitted, what is special review use, etc. But in terms of the idea of community mixed use, this property does fit those classifications in terms of what the purpose is for that zoning class, and especially that airport zoning does fit, because obviously it is the only place you could really have an airport zoning in the town, except for the actual land that the town owns. So I do see a lot more involvement with the neighbors coming. I would highly recommend additional, above and beyond the neighborhood meetings. Yes, you are required to have one prior to coming before the planning commission within 90 days of coming before the planning commission, but I would highly recommend having more communications with the airport owners over there, with the airport HOA. And I've heard that there isn't an HOA, but no, there is an HOA. So they will be able to provide you a lot of beneficial feedback. So I thank you both again for coming before us, and I look forward to seeing what becomes of this.
Anybody else have comments? I have some, but
I just want to say I agree with what Commissioner Selwich has mentioned, and this is, as we're getting more into infill type of projects like this, as opposed to just big open development. I like the last one, unfortunately, but it's becoming less common, and these infill projects are more. We're seeing that we're having to deal with, especially the existing communities around us, and so. Like I said, I agree with what Commissioner Selwich said. We need to work with this. I think what's scary about this is the laundry list of things that are permitted without hearing, without application. And so that's where it's going to be crucial for developers and the town to work with the residents to make sure that these are acceptable uses for everyone. But I will say, along Highway 7, this is really an appropriate use of more commercial uses than low density residential in my mind. So
I'd just add to that the consideration of highest and best use of that property. It does fall in line with that. So if we can balance the neighbors to the north and how the uses agree with each other as that density builds, it's probably the best effort.
Just echoing what my other commission members have said, that I sympathize with the residents, and I obviously don't live in the neighborhood, but I can understand the frustrations that you're feeling. But our job today is to see if it aligns with the comprehensive plan the town has in place. So, regardless of maybe personal feeling or if we live there, the comp plan says something, the town's developed the comp plan. That's what we're looking at today. And if it does go forward, I think the site plan meeting will be extensive, and, we'll ask even more questions. And so there are more opportunities, for that. Thank you.
Yeah, and following through with that, there is the rezoning user's guide that Erie has. And in there's one line for the approval criteria, which is that it follows the UDC section 1075B3. And one of the big things in there is what we were talking about, and what was brought up in the public comment, that it does have to be generally consistent with what's going on now. And so for zoning, I'm not sure there's anything that's in the applicant that contradicts what they have to follow. I think for site plan, as everyone else has said, it's going to be critical. And I want to thank the applicant because you have been having extensive conversations with the residents. And I'm expecting that to be continued. So, and there will be plenty of other opportunities here. All right. So I'm going to say I think we've had enough deliberation. So does somebody want to make a motion? Thank you.
Motion to approve resolution number P 26-06, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Erie recommending approval of the rezoning of the Sierra Vista property to community mixed use, CMU, and airport AP.
Do we have a second?
Second. Bayham.
Does anybody want a roll call vote? Hearing none, let's do a voice vote. All in favor of the approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. I want to thank everybody who is here, and there will be a lot more work as part of this. So, close the public
Absolutely.
hearing now. Oh, well, sorry, it's been closed. So it's now 9:16. We've concluded general business. Move to staff reports. Does staff have anything?
Yes, just one item. We've been working with the clerk's office. As you're probably aware, they've been recruiting for a lot of the advisory boards, including Planning Commission. And they're working with CIRSA to have some training on site, and that's going to be open to you all as well. On May 4th at 6 p.m. here. It will be recorded if you can't make it, but there will be towards the end a quasi-judicial portion specific for Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. So it would be handy to at least, view that if you can't make it to the meeting. The clerk's office will be sending out invitations to that in a few weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's it.
No. Okay. The time is now 9:17. Are there any commissioner reports or discussion?
Quick question for staff. How does it look for the next meeting? Is it looking like we're going to hold our meeting or cancel in advance?
I believe we have an item. Hold on. Sorry.
I have the advanced agenda right here.
Yeah, we have some changes to comply with some state law regarding non-functional turf. So, exciting stuff.
Non-functional turf?
Non-functional turf, yes. We can talk about it on May 6th.
But I think the question, was the question about May 6th or April 15th?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the
April
wrong-
15th.
Yes, April.
So the one thing, that's on preliminary, or, yeah, the
Yes.
advanced agenda was UDC change.
For code enforcement.
Sorry.
Yes.
And I will be out, so I will send email about that.
Thank you.
So we do have a meeting April 15th?
Yes.
All right.
And May 6th.
That includes everything on the agenda, unless I missed somebody. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All right. I thank you all very much.